Hi, this is Luis Souza from rawveganpower.com, and we have today a very, very special and famous guest, Angela Stokes-Monarch from rawfarm.com. Here we are in her blog, and we can see the fantastic transformation that she went through from being 279 pounds of weight and then losing 140 or more pounds in just with the raw vegan diet. She's the author of many books. We have here 4 of them, the Raw Farm books. And she has a lot more that she will tell us in just a minute. She is also wife of Matt Monarch, and they both have the rawfoodworld.com TV show and store. The store is the biggest one of the planet, the raw food online store. And Angela just started last November glowwithgrace.com, a very interesting project, a vlog project, in which she shares all her experience being a mother now. So I'm very proud and honored to have Angela Stokes here. Welcome, Angela. It's so nice to have you here. I'm very excited for this opportunity of interviewing you.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
I'm a fan of yours, and I am just one fan of yours because you have lots of fans, and it's fantastic to talk to you. Well, I was studying your story, preparing for this interview, and I realized that the raw food diet seems to have changed your life forever, right? I was wondering, have you ever imagined how your life would be if you didn't choose this diet?
For sure, yeah. I honestly wonder if I would even still be alive if I hadn't have gone down this path. When obviously this was my destiny to unfold, so here we are. You know, I was almost 300 pounds actually. That picture that you saw on my website there was a more recent one. I did reach almost 300 pounds at my highest weight, so I was really incredibly overweight, ill, unhappy, depressed. You know, I was not in a good space at all. So for me, raw food was really like this kind of doorway that just led me into total transformation of my whole life.
Yeah, and you I don't know if you had a previous career as a writer, and I understood that you already had this will to help people because you lived in many countries, and you were helping people who needed help, and I really am curious about knowing about this. But were you a writer before?
Kind of. I've always been into writing, and I studied linguistics at university, which is the study of language. So yeah, there was always that kind of thread in my life that I was very into writing and reading. As you said, I traveled around the world a lot before kind of coming onto this raw food path. I was doing different long-term volunteering projects all around the world, working with people with disabilities, on organic farms, all kinds of different projects like that. And then almost 11 years ago now, I was handed a book about raw food at one of the volunteering projects where I was working, and you know, everything started to change from there, and this kind of became the focus of my life.
So you were already kind of a reformist, right? Because I'm thinking now the name of your blog and your books, right? Raw Reform. You were kind of a revolutionary or something like that, right?
I guess so. Yeah, I wasn't really taking a traditional path.
Oh, cool. And could you tell us about your experience with the Raw Farm? I mean, how many people did you reach with this blog and books? Do you know
Wow.
this?
I have no idea. My website went up on the 1st of January 2004. So it's been up for what, like 9 years now? Is that, yeah, it's been up for 9 years. And that's included, all kinds of TV and radio interviews and magazine articles and newspaper things. So there's just constantly all these people going there, and it's just so beautiful because they get inspired by the stories and the pictures, and then they make changes in their lives, and then they tell other people and they make changes in their lives. So I feel like you can never really know, the extent to which the kind of ripples have gone out from one person telling their story of transformation, how that can inspire so many millions of other people, especially with the CNN thing. When my weight loss story was on CNN, I think it was 2008 or something, it was the biggest health story of the year. There was like millions of people going to my website every day, and it it just completely like exploded the whole website. It crashed. So it's been an incredible journey and blessing to watch all of that unfold, because it's just one person's story. I read that little book years ago, the first book that I read about raw food that triggered me into taking this path, and that was just someone else's story, So I think it's so beautiful, especially with the internet these days, how we can share these stories and keep inspiring each other. Raw foodists 20, 30 years ago did not have this kind of magic way of contacting each other through the internet, so we're really blessed.
And it's the butterfly effect, right? Someone makes a little change in Ecuador, where you are now, and maybe the whole world changes, right? It's fantastic, fantastic. And one other book that you have is Raw Emotions. And could you tell us something about the change of emotions in a person when this person starts a raw vegan diet? The
Sure.
emotions related to food, of course.
Yeah. Well, what I tend to see is that most people, I feel like, in kind of Western civilized societies tend to have this very strong connection to food. So most people have like very kind of stressed lifestyles, and food is one of the things that they use to help them to kind of calm down, to numb, to kind of push down the feelings of stress and maybe desperation or whatever it is that they're feeling. So all of those emotions usually get kind of pushed down and numbed. And when you stop eating those kind of processed foods that give you that kind of effect, that you numb out, like, breads and pastas and ice cream and all those kind of things, when you stop eating those things and you start to eat something more kind of clean, more straight from the earth, whether it's whole foods or raw foods or whatever, all of those emotions tend to start to come up for people for processing, because they've just been like pushed down for so long and not looked at. And I know for myself, this was a huge part of my journey of transformation. When I started to eat more healthily, all of this stuff came up for me, especially really difficult stuff to process around resentment and bitterness and anger and all this kind of negative stuff that had been so much part of my reality before I chose a healthier way. I had to kind of like get all of that stuff out of me. So that can be a common thing for people to go through. It's like you're detoxing physically, you're detoxing emotionally, mentally, all of these things. It's like you're stripping away all of the layers that have built up over the years that aren't really like who you optimally want to be. They're not like your highest vision for yourself, but they're things that you've been living with. And if you can work through those things and get through to the other side, then, who knows what's on the other side for you. You could have such a brighter, more fulfilling, inspiring life. So it's always a kind of payoff. People can find it really hard to go through the detox on every level. But on the other side of it, things can be so much brighter.
By my own experience, but you have much more experience than me, could we say that it's easier to live in the present moment on a raw vegan diet?
I would think that for most people that's probably true. Yeah. You know, sometimes people ask, like, why do people say that there's this kind of spiritual connection between eating raw food and like having more connection to spirit or God or whatever you want to call it? Like, why would that be the case? Why would eating carrots instead of hamburgers make any difference?
Yeah, it's a
But
good
for
question.
me, it's just that whole thing of stripping away all the layers that have built up. You know, the kind of systems that we tend to live in Western society, it's just like layer upon layer of conditioning, and you know, we put down this layer of fat to protect us, and we don't show our true emotions, and the authentic self on the inside just gets like completely just covered with dealing on a daily basis with all this stress from modern lifestyles. And when we start to peel all of that away and question, well, hang on, like, what do I really want to be doing? And what do I want to be eating? And why did I ever go to school? Those kind of things. You know, we can really kind of get into our true self. Like, what's my
Right.
optimal vision? And then that's just part of it, right? Like living in the moment rather than being in that kind of stressful rat race lifestyle of, I've got to do this because I've got to pay these bills. And, you know, it's all connected.
Yeah, it's incredible, this effect. One curiosity, Angela. You are living in Ecuador, and I saw today the video when it was the first year of Oria, and Matt's father is in the video playing the piano and so on. And I was wondering, why are you living in Ecuador? I mean, do you have family connections or something like that?
No, we don't. We don't have any family here. We wanted to live somewhere with a really nice climate, really clean air, great soil, great water, so that we could grow our own food and live a kind of outside, inside lifestyle rather than being inside a lot of the time, which is what happens if you're from England, especially like I am in the winter time. So we just, you know, wanted a place like that that would be great for growing things. And a friend of ours moved here to Vilcabamba, Ecuador, and we saw some photos of his from his gardens here and the things he was doing, and we heard about his lifestyle here, and we were just like, that's it, that's where we want to go. So we ended up here, and there's actually a kind of blossoming community of people who are into raw food or, you know, growing their own
Oh,
food,
really?
like that.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that you had the community as well. Because sometimes when you live far from family, you live more only the couple, right? Only the family, and with the community, it makes much easier, right?
Right.
And talking about Oriah, her birth is something really emotional. I was really impressed by your courage of making an unassisted delivery, only with Matt, right? How long did you prepare for that?
Wow. In 2007, we saw a DVD about natural birthing, and that was kind of the beginning of our journey. So yeah, quite a few years ago. I really hadn't even thought about the difference between like the kind of hospital birth model and natural births until that point. And we watched this DVD that's called Birth as We Know It, which I would recommend to anyone interested in this topic. It's absolutely amazing. And that was kind of the beginning of the journey. We just became very interested in conscious parenting and what would be our kind of optimal vision for how to conceive a child, bring a child into this world, parent them, all of those kind of things. So it was kind of a big quest for us because you know, we really kind of, we're people who kind of question everything in life, and we were pretty clear that we didn't want to do what other people around us had done just
Right.
because that's what they did with their children. You know, we wanted to really think about it and question, well, what could we do? What are our options? And yeah, so November the 20th, 2011, she arrived. And yeah, it was an unassisted birth. It was just me and Matt there in our bathroom outside. And she arrived in 1 hour and 17 minutes. It was a really fast delivery, and everything was totally fine. You know, she's super healthy. We did a lotus birth, which means that you don't cut the umbilical cord, just allow it to fall off by itself. So it was just a huge experience, you know, I mean, anyone who's a parent knows that it was like such a huge learning experience in those early days and weeks. And it's just been amazing. She just turned 16 months old.
And
Couple of weeks ago.
did you suffer much pain? Because usually women have lots of pain, and you didn't seem to talk about it.
Yeah, it's something that I find kind of challenging to answer. It's immediately after the birth, I remember saying to Matt that it was not something that I felt I could never do again. It wasn't so painful that I was like, oh my God, I could never do that again. That was crazy. So what I've really felt was it's like this kind of practice in extreme awareness giving birth, because you're completely in your right brain. Like you almost can't function at all in your left brain anymore. So nothing's linear, nothing's logical. You're just like in your right brain, moment to moment, just focusing on what's happening and just, you know, breathing with what's happening in your body. And if you're in a kind of situation where you can kind of relax enough that you just let your body do its own thing, which I was really happy to be in that kind of situation. You know, the body just, of course, knows what to do. It knows how to give birth. Your brain doesn't necessarily know how to give birth, but your body does. And so, you know, just kind of get out of the way and let your body do that. So yeah, it's like I can't really focus or remember about pain as a concept with it, because it was just like moment to moment, just kind of dealing with, okay, now this is happening, now this is happening. And at the end of it, as I said, it didn't feel like, oh, I could never do that again. So I guess it worked out.
And did you already know the position of Oria inside your belly?
Yeah, that was pretty cool. There's a guy here who's like 85, I think, and he's a kind of old midwife. It's kind of bizarre. There's like these really old midwife people around here, and this one's a guy, and his speciality is checking the position of your baby. So I just went to see him, I think 2 or 3 times during pregnancy, right near the end, to check the position that she was in. And she was actually feet down to begin with the first time we saw her. And I was just like, oh my God, like breech delivery. But one of the skills of this old guy who's like 85 is turning the baby from the outside. It's called external version. And it's quite a rare skill these days with midwives. But he was just like, okay, I'm going to turn her. I mean, we didn't know it was a girl at that point. I'm just going to turn the baby. So he just and turned her around so that she was head down. And it was extremely painful, but it was literally, you know, 3-4 minutes or something of him getting her into position, and then that was it. So I was like, okay, I would rather have really strange sensations going on than try to, you know, do a breech delivery, which of course can happen naturally. But, you know, I had the opportunity to have her head down rather than feet down. So I was like,
Right, sure. And what are you doing now with Oria's diet? Because are you breastfeeding still or not?
yeah, she still breastfeeds. So she just turned 16 months, and we intend to breastfeed full term. So as long as she wants, until she starts to kind of wean herself. And I would say at the moment, breast milk is probably about 70% of her intake still, something like that. So she eats throughout the day, but she tends to eat small amounts of different things. she doesn't ever kind of like sit down and eat a meal. You know, she's not like that. She's always kind of running around and doing different things, and she'll grab a piece of this and a piece of that. And she just loves to like go into the gardens and the greenhouses and pick stuff, you know, like cucumbers from the greenhouses is one of her absolute favorite things.
Really?
One of her best foods. So she just goes in the greenhouses and she'll walk around with a cucumber in each hand, just like eating them as she goes. And she loves all the berries and different fruits that we have growing on the land. She'll go and pick different things. And yeah, she eats raw vegan like we do. And a lot of breast milk.
And she loves the animals as well, right? You have 7 horses now, or am I wrong?
Yeah, 7 horses, a baby horse who's just like 3 weeks old, and there's 2 cats and 3 dogs. And yeah, she loves all of them. She just has so much fun. She's always talking about the horses and the baby horse, and the cats especially. She loves to grab them and play with them. So yeah, she really has a lot of fun.
And then, as I told you, I was studying your story to talk to you today, and then I realized, well, first turning point was the raw food diet. Second, Oria, right?
I guess so. Yeah, it feels like that. I mean, there's this kind of idea that after the baby is born, the mother is born, or the parents are born. And it's really a whole new life.
And then you launch Glow with Grace, and the name is fantastic, and it expresses what I think most women start feeling when they become mothers, right? Because I think it's so special to become a mother, and glowing with grace, it's something that every woman would like to have, right? To be a good mother. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And I think there's so much pressure on women at this point. You know, there's so much stress in most people's modern lives. I think it's a huge challenge for people, especially for parents of young children, on a daily basis, to be in that kind of space where they feel like they are glowing with grace, you know, to be in a place where they're patient and loving and gentle and all of those kind of things in a world that's kind of completely at odds with a slow pace of lifestyle.
Yeah, you are right. I understand what you mean, because most women nowadays they have careers, they live in crowded cities, they have to drive the car, and they have to be moms as well, right?
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's not so easy to glow with grace as you are proposing here. Yeah, I can understand that. What are your plans for this blog?
Well, it's a vlog, video.
Sorry, a vlog, yes.
Which was kind of challenging for me when I started to do this. It was like kind of beyond my comfort zone, which was one of the reasons I wanted to do it. As you said in the beginning, I'm used to writing. You know, I'm much more of a writer than kind of presenting myself in front of people to speak, that kind of thing. So it was really beyond my comfort zone to start to do videos instead, and it felt like the next appropriate move for me, because as a mother of a young child, it's not that easy for me at this point to sit down and write an entire blog, you know, and edit it and make sure it's all like really nicely done. It's much easier to just stick a camera in front of myself and film for 3-10 minutes and put it up on YouTube, you know. So that was kind of what got me into doing it, and now I'm totally fine with doing it, but in the very beginning I was very kind of nervous about it, and I didn't know how it would be. So I share all kinds of different things on there. I share tips that seem to work for us about parenting. I share some recipes. I share some of our favorite children's books and lullabies, and a few reviews of different things that we like, our top parenting books and DVDs and all kinds of stuff like that, updates of where we live and things about our animals. And
And you already launched the book there to A Gentle Start.
Yeah. So A Gentle Start is my book about conscious parenting, like all the kind of things that speak to us about conscious parenting. So Araya's birth story, our daughter's birth story, is in there. And
Oh,
then there's just tons of information, kind of very condensed information about different things that people can do in terms of conscious parenting, so, stuff about breastfeeding and co-sleeping and baby wearing and diaper free and lotus birthing and all these kind of things that people can do with their children that they're probably not going to hear about from, their doctor or the kind of mainstream world. Everything is in that book. And there's also lists of the kind of things that we bought in preparation for Araya being here. I didn't want to be one of those people who has like rooms full of baby stuff that never gets used, so I was really trying to like do my homework and only buy the stuff that we would really want, and it worked out really well. So there's this in that book of what we bought and what was useful and all that kind of stuff.
and one other curiosity. Do you intend to have other babies?
I think probably, yeah. I feel like there's probably at least another one on the way at some point. I would prefer if Araya was at least 3 years old before bringing anyone else in. Um, yeah, we'll see how it goes. I just have this feeling like it would be super intense to have children who are closely spaced in age for me. Everyone's different, but for me, I just feel like I don't think I could handle that. So I feel like if she was at least 3, that would probably be good timing. We'll see.
Yeah, it's not so far one from another as well, right? 3 years, it could be good, yes. And getting back to the raw vegan world, what do you see in the future of the raw vegan movement or the influence, the raw reform that we are making in the world? What do you see its future?
Well, I guess it's going to just keep on expanding because that's what I've seen since I got into this field. It was 11 years ago that I stepped onto this path, and things were dramatically different back then than they are now, in terms of the resources and the connections and all of that kind of stuff, the information out there. So in just, a decade, it's changed enormously. So I imagine it's just going to keep on spreading. And we'll see, there's all kinds of funny things going on in the background, as I'm sure a lot of people are aware, like the Monsanto crops and things to try to stop people growing their own food. So I don't know, we'll see what direction things turn out in. But my impression is that it's just going to keep expanding because it's, again, people's stories, people's own stories of healing that happened to them. So, if someone hears that, and it has an inspiration for them, maybe they're going to do something, and the stories just keep spreading. So I think
Right.
that's where the inspiration comes from for people, and the more and more that people connect, the more that those stories keep flowing. So I don't know if there's ever going to be a point where there's a massive amount of people who are eating completely raw. That's not typically what we see. Usually it's more people are interested in raw and they eat more raw stuff than they did before, other than eating 100% raw. I just think it will keep going in that direction.
I see. And well, Angela, last question now. In one sentence, comparing to the person that you were and the person who you are now, what's your raw vegan power?
The power to be authentically me.
Oh, I love that. The power to be authentically you. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Angela. I really appreciate the time that you took to be here with me today. And I really love it to talk to you, and I hope you keep taking care of Oria the best way as you are already doing. And I wish you all the best because I really think you deserve it. And
Aw, thank
yeah, I really feel that some people like you are start these revolutions, and you are very valuable and important to the world. You know, it's something really special. Thanks so much for being here today. It was really a
you.
pleasure. Thank you. Bye bye. And you,
Ciao.
oh, sorry. And you who are watching, go now to rawrefarm.com and glowwithgrace.com and see all the great stuff that Angela Stokes-Monarch has to offer you there. Okay? Bye bye. Bye bye, Angela.
Ciao.